the Nancy News Hour. We have a special guest today in our In the Spotlight segment. Jane Crowley has been in real estate for over 22 years. She works for Midwest, RE/MAX Midwest, and has sold over 700 homes, which is quite impressive. This afternoon, she's going to share some insight on financing options. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you, Nancy.
So you've had so much experience in the real estate business. Tell us why you want to focus today on financing options.
Not being a mortgage person, I work with buyers all the time. And because I do that, I have a good cross-section idea of what's all available out there. All these banks come to us all the time and tell us about their programs. So I know a wide variety of the loans out there and can advise my buyers on which is the best program for them. If you go to one bank, they might only present their things that they offer. I can tell you what's available at all other banks. And since I'm supposed to look out for my buyers, I try to find the best solution for them.
Okay. So there's a perception that it's difficult to find a loan. Is this true?
Contrary to what you might hear on the news or from your friends, it's not impossible to get a loan. Banks are still loaning money. However, it is much more difficult, but it's not impossible.
Great. That's good news for those looking for a purchase of a new home. There's also the perception that you need to have a 20% down payment. Is this something that is true today?
No, absolutely not. That's a real common misconception. There's actually quite a diverse array of options out there. Of course, 20% is the gold standard. It's great if you have 20%. But you can also get a conventional, regular standard loan, 10% down, 5%, and some banks even have a 3% option out there. And then there's good old FHA, Federal Housing Administration. That only requires 3.5%, and that 3.5% can be a gift from a family member. Doesn't even have to be your own money. And then there are several 100% financing options out there. VA for the veterans, USDA, that's a rural loan, Warwick County, Gibson County, Posey, those all have rural development loans out there. Hope of Evansville, Cape, Indiana Housing, they're 100% financing, but actually they're giving the buyer the down payment, so it's no money down. And then depending on which bank you go to, some local banks have a true 100% financing out there. But your income has to be below a certain level, and then they target some areas that they would like people to own homes in. But there are quite a few things out there that are way less than 20%.
Aren't some of these low down payment programs what brought us to the financial crisis a few years ago?
Yes, but it's much more complicated than that. They've really cracked down on the financing. The mortgage brokers now have to be licensed, and they watch them carefully. Gone are the days of the crazy stuff. In fact, it's become so, the documentation that they require has become so absurd. Recent thing happened to somebody I was working with. Of course, when you apply for a loan, you have to fill out all sorts of forms. And the underwriter for the bank came back and said, what is this large deposit going into your checking account every other Friday? And the person getting the loan said, that's my paycheck that I had already told you about on my form. So it's becoming that ridiculous. They used to have things like stated income, where you could just go into your mortgage person and say, oh, I make $300,000 a year, and they go, okay, and they just write it down. You wouldn't have to provide proof of your income or anything. And probably everybody listening to us has seen the commercials for 125% refinancing, where they loan you 25% more than your home was worth. A lot of those ended up going into foreclosure. You probably saw the new homes you could build dollar down financing. A lot of those went into foreclosure. So gone are those days. Now, the people getting these low down payment programs, they typically have to go to some classes. So they learn about money management, budgeting, that sort of thing, because the banks do not want to get those loans back and foreclose. So it's not the free-for-all that it was just a few years ago.
Well, that's good news. We don't want to go back into something like that. So why do companies offer these low down payment programs? What's the advantage?
The advantage is it helps promote home ownership. That's the goal. Studies have shown that if somebody owns a home, the family stays stronger. Students do better in school because they have a much more stable home environment. And the neighborhood stays safer, and the values stay up in those areas.
That's fantastic. Sounds like a win-win there. We are starting to run out of time, so I wanted to offer you a chance. Do you have any final comments that you'd like to share about financing and the market?
I would really like people to spread the word that it is easier than you would think to get a loan. It used to be anybody could get one, but now they do have minimum credit scores. 640 is the gold standard on that side. If you are better than that, wonderful. If you're a little bit lower than that, you can still get a loan, but you might have to pay a little bit more in interest or cost at the end of the loan. But it's very well worth checking into. Some people would love to be homeowners, but they're afraid to take that first step because they think that you have to have perfect credit or 20% down, and they don't even take that very first step to get started.
Right. Very few people can fit that bill, so it's great that there are those options there. Well, Jane, I want to thank you for joining us on In the Spotlight today. We enjoyed the information you shared, and I'd like to thank our audience for joining us today. We will be back again next week in another segment of In the Spotlight during Nancy's News Hours. Thank you.